Yeah, this is Varun. And thank you, Shelly. Thank you for your nice introductions. We're a team of financial consultant, and by profession, I'm chartered accountant, where we are guiding a multiple fintech company with regard to digital lending and the NBFC merger and acquisition. So, like we have so many requests from like the market, and where we do some analysis as well. Like there's a new recent guideline by the RBI with regard to digital lending, where lots of fintechs are confused, like what they are supposed to do and what they are required to what they have to do for to make comply their fintech platform, or maybe either a registered entity platform to comply with the RBI guideline. So, like the topic itself says that it is with regard to digital lending. We will take the fintech lending in this uh, session, but we will touch the cyber laws as well, where we are required to make our platform comply with those uh, laws and other various regulatory which are going to address under these presentations. So yeah, we can start the presentations here. So in this presentation, what we are going to discuss here, the keywords to know. What are the important terms are here which we are required to understand. The second is the RBI instructions on the customer protections. What are we are supposed to do, being a fintech platform, being a registered entity platform, being an NBFC, being any kind of registered entity with the RBI, what we are required to do to protect our customer and borrower from any other kind of things. How to collect and charges. There are the various charges is being collected by the NBFC's companies and the fintech platform. How those charges need to be collected, and what are the compliances with regard to those charges as well. There are some disclosure guidelines as well, where we are going to discuss about the what are the disclosures to be done while if you have such fintech platform, if you having a such kind of registered entity, then what are the things that we are required to do. There are some most important relevant topics like the grievances. If there is a grievances from your borrower, so how they are going to approach you, how they are going to approach which authority, and how there are the certain discrepancies in the market as well, which we are discuss about in this grievance receipt. The second, the sixth one is the how prepayment charges work in this kind of structures when you're having a fintech platform. The LSP means loan service provided. There, if you onboarding some LSP, like you have some functions where you are outsourcing some entity which is registered entity, like a collection agency, if they have a DRA license, if they have some other kind of compliances, then what are the due diligence you are required to do before onboarding such LSPs. Data management and privacy norm, that is the most relevant now, because recently there is a data protection bill 2022 have been presented, and which has some sort of things like they're the big tech giant are entering into this industry as well. You must be heard about those tech giant, but still, so that is a necessity with the data protections bill, because we Indian governments want to protect the data of the Indian customer, even it is a borrower, if it is an e-commerce customer, or impact on the FLDG. This is the most important topic. Like it has hurt to so many fintech company in the market, where they were partnering with the some NBFC company through this arrangement, and this thing have been after this guideline, which is effective from 1st December. These things have been the business has got impacted. So we can start now. So keywords to know is the one of the APR. APR basically annual percentage rate. Before starting this definition, whatever the things we are discussing over here, we will take a practical example of this, that so that you can better understand this. If you are a fintech platform, if you are doing fintech lending, then what are you doing? Is it correct or not? That you can verify from this process if something is need to be addressed. So in APR, what it is this, APR is the annual percentage rate which is to be charged from the borrower. Being in fintech platform, being a registered NBFC, if there's a two kind of thing. One, if you're having a fintech platform different and the NBFC is different. One, you have NBFC with the fintech platform, means you have your own fintech technology. So in that case, whatever the charges that you're being charged, which are certain in nature, like there are the processing fees, there are the insurance charges, there are the stamp duty charges, there are the various other charges which we can see that number of NBFC, number of the fintech lending companies are charging to the borrower. So RBI has made a specific disclosure apart from sanction letter, apart from this legal agreement, loan agreement. There are the KFS, the key fact statement, where these APR charges is required to be disclosed. So I'll discuss about the KFS because it has a separate page of presentation on the latest stage. So in APR, whatever the charges we are charging, we are required to mention it to the borrower before disbursing it loan, and it should be on annualized form. What happens so far, like some of the fintech companies are disbursing us micro loan like 10,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees loan, they charge 20% of processing fees or some kind of 0.1 or maybe 1% interest rate. But if we analyzed it, then it becomes a huge amount of interest and a huge amount of APR. So these but if we talk about in the short term of this period, like 1 month, we won't be able to address. It is hardly, there's a 5,000, only 500, 10% charges, 500 is charges, and 4,500 that you are getting from the NBFC. But if you analyze it, you will be able to get to know what exactly the cost that you're paying for uh, this for this particular credit. So RBI just want that you are required to disclose the APR charges to the borrowers, but it does not include any contingent charges. Contingent charges mean which depends upon some event. If it is a overdue charges, which means that there will be a time like if you does not pay loan by X date, then you have to pay these charges, that is overdue charges or penalties. So these are the contingent charges. So these are not included in the APR because initially we won't be able to get what on the basis of that what is going to be the APR. So these charges are specifically to be mentioned in the KFS statement. The second, so this is all about the APR. The next is the cooling off a lockup period. Cooling off lockup period, it is an exit period. Exit period. Suppose if I'm taking a loan on X date, so RBI provide a certain time limit that between that time I can take exit from that loan without paying any prepayment penalty. So prepayment penalty. Just a minute. So sorry. So in cooling off lockup period, it is an exit period to be given to the borrower if it doesn't want to avail the loan, which means the borrower can take exit from this X of date without like paying any prepayment penalty. He can take it, but they have said they are not supposed to pay the prepayment penalty, but they are required to pay interest and whatever the charges need to be required to be up to that date. So which means that prepayment penalty need to be avoided. This thing is to be done. We will discuss on the there's a separate page of this for this particular topic. LSP is again the loan service provider. Loan service provider mean any person who are helping you for your credit process or for credit or any kind of other process which is not a core function or which may be a light function, but it is a part of your main business. Like you can, collection agency is one of thing. It is a core function, yes, but there is a guideline of the RBI that you can outsource it to the XYZ entity. That is the NBFC RBI outsourcing guideline. So in that case, what you can do, which I like. Sorry for the glitch. I'm not able to see the screen. Just a minute. Sorry, guys. Actually, there is some technical glitch. Yes, could you please help me with this thing? Yeah, sorry. Sorry, guys. There was some technical glitch. In this LSP, basically, it is a kind of outsourcing agency where we are outsourcing our functions. So there are separate page with regard to this LSP, even the due diligence is required to be done. DLA is the digital lending application, which means if you are a fintech company, you are running an application, what are you required to do in case of digital lending application? When we're talking about the digital lending application, it is not only include iOS or Android application, but it is also include your web-based application. So which means that it is either on the web-based, it is on the any platform it is counted to be as a digital lending application. Biometric data, which means the data gathered on the basis of human behavior and characteristics. So many fintech companies are disbursing loan on the basis of their behavior, like their repayment capacity assessment and all things, where they advance and they check the behavior of the customer on the basis of their spend, on the basis of bank statements and other things analysis. But that is what biometric. It is a very relevant point as on date with regard to new digital lending guideline, but I'll discuss on the separate because these are the only definitions. We will go for the next page. So yeah, so you must be aware about one thing, that most of the like wallet and there are some BNP, buy now pay later products have been hurt by the RBI, where some of them have to stop their business immediately, and some of them are waiting for some other arrangement to conduct that business, and the rest are just waiting for the revised guideline for the RBI. Due to this customer protection thing, what RBI has been said in this particular arrangement, that whatever the loan that an NBFC is required to be disbursed, if it is to be disbursed, it is to be disbursed directly to the bank account of the borrower. My point is bank account is of the borrower. The relevant point is bank account of the borrower. They haven't said that it is a prepaid wallet. They haven't said that there is some XYZ virtual account. They said it is to be directly transferred to the bank account of the borrower. Exceptions are there, but where there are specifically advices by the RBI in other arrangement where the amount to be credited in the account of the some other person. I'll give you the example of that thing as well. The prop tech company. Recently, after a decade of downfall in real estate industry, there is some various prop tech companies are coming up where the amount, if they are paying, how these arrangements to be done when we take any property to the XYZ person from the XYZ developer or builder, then we are required to pay this some amount through banks. When it is when we are required to pay the amount from the bank, it directly get credited to the developer or builder. It does not directly credit to the R account. That is one of the examples. So in that case, there are specifically arrangement and have been explained by the RBI in their sum of advisory. Then such thing can be happening. Like co-lending arrangement, when the two registered entities are co-lending and then making arrangement to disburse the loan to XYZ or ABC and consortium or other various bases. So that there are the exceptions. So now I talk about the disbursement part. Now we will talk about the repayment part. Some of the fintech company, how earlier as on date, some of the like most of the fintech company are complying, but earlier before 2020 or maybe before 2020, what some fintech company was used to do, if they're disbursing 20,000 of loan, then they are deducting 10% of processing fee, which means 2,000 rupees. Now, this 2,000 processing fee were directly getting credited to that fintech company. It is not going, it is not credited in the account of NBFC, which was the mandatory at that time as well. But these were some practices what which being followed by some of the fintech company. So these specifically advisory have been issued that if any amount which is to be repaid, it should not be paid to the any pool account or any third party account. It should be directly paid to the registered entity account. We will take a plain reading of this thing. You will be able to understand. Like I have already explained you the example, then you will be able to. Registered entity shall ensure that all loan services repayment shall be executed by borrower directly in the registered entity bank account, without any pass-through account, pool account of any third party. the disbursement shall always be made into the bank account of the borrower, except for disbursal covered exclusively under the statutory, like example of PropTech company or regulatory mandate for RBI or other regulator. The flow of money between registered entity for co-lending transaction and disbursal of specific end use. Provided the loan is disbursed directly into the bank account of and beneficiary, distributor shall ensure that no case dispersal is made to third party account, no third party account dispersal to be done, including the account of LSP and their DLA, except as specified in the as provided in this guideline. So this is what we discussed about the customer protection. Now we will go for the how to collect and charge. Payment fees and charge. Registered entities shall ensure that any fee charges extra payable to LSP are paid directly by them registered entity and are not charged by LSP to the borrower directly. Like I explained you the previous example, if in our example 20,000 rupees, there's a 10% of processing fee, 2,000 would not directly go to the LSP account from the borrower. It first goes to the registered entity account. Registered entity will transfer that amount, whatever the arrangement between registered entity and that particular fintech company. They can make their own arrangement. But when it is about the borrower and lending company has direct relationship. There is no mediator. Mediator are only for the purpose of assisting the business. They are not, if there is a commercial decision to be taken, commercial decision to be taken by the NBFC and LSP. There is a direct relationship between NBFC and LSP and NBFC and borrower. There is no any indirect relation between the LSP through borrower. So these are about the payment of fee and charges. Penal interest are charges. The penal so there was some earlier practice of some fintech company that what exactly they do. If there is a 20, like our example, there are 20,000 of loan, we are charging a 20% of 10% of processing fee, that is 2,000 rupees. And then if there is a charges, if suppose there is it is a kind of EMI loan, and if there is some last EMI he is not able to pay, then some of the fintech companies, some of the NBFC company are used to charge the penal interest charge on total amount of loan, which is a wrong practice and which is strictly mentioned by the RBI here as well. They have to charge the penal charges on outstanding loan amount only. There should be no any charges on the total, whatever the outstanding liability there, these charges to be charged on that particular amount. The penal, we can do the plain reading of this section as well. The plain interest, the penal interest charge levied, if any, on the borrower shall be based on the outstanding amount of the loan, which is earlier these used to have some of the fintech company, not a total amount of a loan, but right now it has been changed to outstanding amount of loan. Further rate of such penal charges shall be disclosed upfront on an annualized basis to the borrower in the key fact statement. Like I mentioned, you must be confused that we are also required to mention the penal charges in KFS statement. There is a separate section for APR, and there is another section for the KFS. I'll send you, I do have email ID of all. I will send you the KFS format once we end up with the this session. So you will be able to get to know how RBI, even if you can directly go to RBI, the RBI website, you will be able to get the KFS statement there as well. Where APR is separately mentioned and penal charges has to be separately mentioned, because penal charges are based on some event, contingent event. So that's why it is not to be included in the APR. That's why they have said this is to be disclosed upfrontly on analyzed basis to the borrower in the key fact statement, which means whatever the charge you are charging throughout the process until the amount is repaid, you initially before disbursement, you are required to disclose it to the borrower. That's it. Now, disclosure guideline like APR, I already mentioned that APR is all inclusive cost of digital loan for the borrower shall be disclosed upfront by the entity, shall be also part of the KPI. APR is the whatever the charges you are charging, annualized date you are required to mention in your key fact statement. What are the key fact statement information should contain? It should contain like APR, annual percentage rate of your all charges. It is a standardized format. I'll send you the copy of that format, or you can easily visit to www.rbi.org.in where you can find the key fact statement as well. The recovery mechanism, like what happens so far, you must be getting a number of calls. So some of your friend has taken a loan and the XYZ company is calling you that this person has taken a loan and he has not paid the money, and you're not aware about these things, and even the borrower, if some of the borrowers are also getting call from the number of uh, a registered entity that X person is calling, and he's not aware about that person as well. So what RBI has mandated that if you're calling a X borrower, then initially you are required to disclose to that borrower in your key fact statement who is your recovery agency, what is the number of that recovery agency, what is the email ID of that person as well, so that borrower can get full information that if I do not pay XYZ amount, then I can I can either get call from the registered entity, or if they have outsourced agency, then borrower must have knowledge that this person can call to him. This is to be mentioned in your key fact statement with regard to recovery mechanism and who is going to call and everything. Detail of grievance redressal officer designated specifically to deal with the digital lending fintech matter and cooling off period. So, which means that you have, if borrower has a concern, grievance redressal officer. If I am a borrower, I have a problem with the X loan, then key fact statement should contain the grievance redressal officer name, their phone number, their email ID, so that I can directly contact with him if I have any problem with regard to this loan. If I have something that some person is calling me and threatening me, harassing me, then I need to call to this first this registered entity where you can get the number in key fact statement. But now, but there are some other various platforms. If the problem is not getting solved, there's a within 30 days or some, then you can report to. There are the RBI Sachet portal. Also there you can report it. You can track your complaint number. RBI on some scheme is also there where you can directly get in touch with the RBI people. Then they can take care of these all things. See, if you're complaining to RBI, RBI will take care of everything. RBI is a well-wisher of all the borrowers. Any fee charges which is not mentioned in the key fact statement cannot be charged by the registered entity to the borrower at any stage. See, whatever the charges you have mentioned, you are required to mention in your KFS statement. If it is not mentioned there, then you cannot charge even single penny from you. If you're charging, that is illegal. Borrower can file complaint against you. Borrower can and your NBFC registered entity may be in trouble. So this is this is about the disclosure guideline. Now, digitally signed document. So there was some confusion with regard to what kind of document which we required to send to the borrower. Some used to only send sanction letter and loan agreement. That's it. There is no other document which we required to send. But in this digital lending platform, if you are doing a digital lending, either you are a fintech company and made arrangement with the NBFC company or banks, or if you are registered entity like NBFC and you have on your fintech platform, then these are the mandatory document which we are required to send on email to the borrower, and you are required to take the consent, maybe OTP based signature or maybe digitally signed, whatever there is a various APIs available in the market and verification. So you can use any service of that for these signatures. So KFS, like I mentioned, KFS now is the most important part. It is a summary of loan product. Sanction letter, it was previously the term and conditions, privacy policy of the LSP, DLA or borrows data as well. Like privacy policy should be very comprehensive policies. It should contain data of your like what are the LSP, their right of business, what exactly the data they are working on, what the information they are required to assess, and in case of LLSP or digital lending app, everything is required to mention in the privacy policy. So by this thing has been come into picture because there was so many problem with regard to this digital lending structure. So RBI just want to channelize it. RBI doesn't have any problem with the digital lending, but it should be legally, it should be, borrower must have the knowledge of this thing. Whatever the things that you are doing, either it is a rate, it is a some kind of percentage, or it is kind of some penal charges, borrower must have the knowledge. So that's why they take the digital signature of this all document. Even if there's data is there, they may ask you to revoke their data as well. So that is something which they require digitally consent on this document. And document should be automatically shared with the borrower on their registered and verified email SMS. So there are another thing, the list of LSP. So I think in 2020 or maybe 2019, there was some RBI advisory as RBI particular notification as well, where RBI advised to multiple registered entity, like you are required to mention the name of fintech platform, because some of the fintech platform which was working on the Play Store or maybe iOS, there were no specific guidelines. So they registered themselves, they do business for 1 and 2 months, and they take money back. And there was so much like noise and non-compliances earlier. So what exactly now it has been mentioned, and in 2020 there were guidelines, but it is now specifically other things is also been mentioned there, that being an NBFC, there should be a separate column on your website. First, you need to have website. Once you have the website, if you are partnering with the either it is your own product or it is your some fintech association, you are required to mention those product on your website. Like these are the fintech company, their website, their Play Store, their iOS link, and these are their policies. You are required to mention in your website. So that is what it is written. List of LSP registered entity, which mean NBFC and banks, shall predominantly publish the list of their DLA, LSP engaged by them, DLA of such LSP with the detail of their activity which they have been engaged on their website. So they are required to mention this detail on their website, which means NBFC has to mention on their website. Even the fintech, there's a fintech company. If fintech company associate with the XYZ NBFC, they are also required to mention this so that it can be cross-checked. If X company is associated with the Y or Y company is associated with, then RBI can easily understand that this is the particular kind of arrangement they have. Product information. Registered entity shall ensure that their DLA or DLA of their LSP onboarding sign-up stage prominently display information relating to product feature, loan limit, and cost as to borrower aware of it. It is like being done by the most of the NBFC company, like while you're onboarding your customer on digital lending applications or something, you are required to mention this is the loan amount, sanction limit, and this is the particular percentage of interest rate is being charged. And so he can easily assess after seeing downloading your app, like this is their eligibility and this amount he is going to get credit in his bank account. So detail of recovery agent registered and shall communicate to the borrower. It is already been addressed in previous sheet that registered entity shall communicate to the borrower at the time of sanctioning loan that at time of passing the recovery responsibility to LSP, which mean I already my KFS should contain that this is your recovery agent. But now what happened, like I have X company as a recovery agent. Now, as on date, I changed my recovery agent. Shall I communicate with the existing borrower? Yes, I am required to communicate with the existing borrower that you may get call from this person if amount is not being paid. And our recovery agent, which we have mentioned in our KFX statement, has been changed to from this to this person. So, which means that you are continuously required to, if there is change, you continuously required to engage with the borrower. It is because borrower is, for the lending industry, is the god. He, like if he can file the complaint, your business may be in trouble. So it is better for both a registered entity and the borrower as well. There should be proper communication. Link to website, like I mentioned, you registered entity shall ensure that their DLA or registered entity and LSP have linked to a registered entity website where further detail of information about their loan product, the lender, LSP, particular customer care like recovery and customer grievance redressal linked to Sachet portal. Like if the company is not addressing your concern within 30 days, you make a file a complaint to the RBI Sachet portal. But I would rather recommend, because whenever you're taking a loan from XYZ entity or ABC NBFC company, if you go to their website, you may get the grievance redressal policy, which is mandatory to be published by every NBFC. And if you can easily get the information of the who is your recovery agent. Like if there is any complaint with regard to payment, there is stages of authority. That stage 1 authority is this, stage 2 authority is this, stage 3 authority is this. And if you want to meet in person, then you may visit to this place and meet in person to access the person. So there are some specific legal way that first you have to comply with the grievance redressal policy, that you can address the issues of this, and these need to be resolved immediately. Like it is a duty of the registered entity within a 30 days to be. If not resolved, then you can make complaint to RBI Sachet portal. You may go to RBI Ombudsman scheme. You may use any other legal way only to make complaint of that registered entity. So, like I discussed with you, the grievance redressal nodal grievance redressal officer, registered entities shall ensure that they and LSP engaged by them shall have a suitable nodal grievance redressal officer. It has already been explained to you before because I am taking like example in very extended way so that you will be get to know everything about in advance, so that we can do the some plain reading. If there would be any questions from your side, there is a QA round is also there. You can ask me question at that time as well. So registered entity shall ensure that they and LSP engaged by them shall have a suitable nodal grievance redressal officer to deal with fintech digital lending related complaint. Like grievance redressal officer appointment is the registered entity has to ensure that LSP engaged by them shall have a suitable and means registered entity must have the grievance redressal officer, but LSP should have also a grievance redressal officer as well. So if there would be any communication to be done, which they can easily communicate through this. So I'll give you the multiple example, like how you must have been seen in the market. There were so many cyber cell cases where some XYZ company, ABC company account have been freezed. Whether they were doing some legal business, there was some like there were no any problematic problem and non-compliance with regard to their business, but their business, their account got frozen by the some authorities. Why this thing have been happening? The first thing, whenever you make any application, digital lending application, you are required to mention, you are required to put one page over there that is a contact us, so that because the borrower is continuously engaged with your application, they see how they can contact. If contact us page is not there, then you are in problem. If despite of mentioning the contact us page, but you are also required to mention the grievance redressal policy link in your that particular application, so that borrower can directly reach to the person like whom he should call, and like with the conversation that you want to have with like to whom he can make call, and if he has any problem. So that is some grievance redressal policy should be there. So if context is page there, your 90% problem is get solved. He can easily get information from contact us page from your application. But our grievance redressal policies link should also be there. Now, the next contact detail of grievance redressal officer shall be predominantly displayed on the website, like I mentioned you. LSP and DLA, and also in KFS statement. KFS already explained about the KFS name should of the grievance redressal officer name should be there. Further, the facility of lodging complaint shall be made available. The DLA digital lending application like contact us page, and the website as website grievance redressal policy link should be there. Even you can make a separate web page for this thing. It is hardly 1 or 2 hours of work. It is reiterated that the responsibility of grievance redressal shall remain with the registered entity, which means despite of having this all thing, it is responsibility of the registered entity to make this thing compliant, to see these all are in place before onboarding any LSP. So these are the things that yes, you do X thing, Y thing, but it is a responsibility of the digital lending applications, registered entity, that they have to ensure that all compliance. Like in our audit, what generally people say, the ultimate responsibility rests with the auditor. You do X thing, you take the report of internal auditor, X auditor, Y auditor, but ultimate responsibility with the rests with the statutory auditor. So it is simply kind of you do take the help of A, B, C, Z, but ultimate responsibility of the registered entity. Every complaint requires solving within 30 days from the date of complaint. Otherwise, the borrower can complain RBI in like Ombudsman scheme. It is simply, or maybe RBI Sachet portal is also one of the latest thing. Yeah. So how to levy prepayment charges? These are the things. See, you must be wondering that first thing I told you initially when we started our conversation, our session, then we talk about that fintech lending is legal. By giving these guidelines, it is very much clear and it is very evident that RBI is much interested in digital lending thing because it happens so fast. But it doesn't mean that you have to, there is no guideline. You have to comply with the guideline as well. You can do the digital lending, that is fine. But it should be as per the RBI norms. You cannot like charge any XYZ or maybe which is without knowledge of the customer and borrower. So how to levy prepayment charges? Basically, it is an extended version of, like I explained you, cooling off a lockup period. If up to if the loan is more than 7 days, which means they are also recognizing a day lending as well. So if loan is more than 3 days, within a 3 day, the borrower can take exit without payment of prepayment charges. And if loan is for the less than 7 day, then they can take the exit within a 1 day without paying any prepayment charges. Prepayment charges can only be levied if borrower has crossed the above limit. If the limit has been crossed, then you can charge the prepayment charge. Otherwise, there is no any prepayment charges shall be levied. So the next point is the due diligence process before partnering with the LSP. When you onboarding any loan service provider, so first let's take example, let's take example of the outsourcing agency, which is some collection agency. Okay. So taking into account the technical ability, we need to check the technical ability as well. Technical ability means like whether these people have previous experience. If yes, then whether these people hold TRA license, debt recovery agency license. If that is fine. If the third thing is what are the system are in place while they are contacting with the customer. So I'll give you the example of some of the compliances which if some XYZ company is using your if you are outsourcing to ABC company or any of your collection function, you need to check their system. Like I'll take it in a reverse way, a reverse mode. Like what should be available to the collection agency to contact with the customer. The first thing, the picture should not be appearing. The picture of the person should be avoided in what they're going to do with their photo. There's so many complaints that they have put their picture on the XYZ person and they're sending to their relative on XYZ person. That is illegal. That should not be done. So because we also had a chance to meet with the various we have also meet with the various cyber officials where we saw that these are the kind of complaints that we are getting from the number of borrowers that they are putting their image on the XYZ person and they're sending to their relative, which is illegal. It should not be done. So make sure when you are outsourcing collection function, the image of the borrower should not be there. Why are you and you are also not required to give the KYC document of your borrower to them as well. What they're going to do the KYC document? Like even if it is required, you give them as per the RBI, you are required to maintain this all document in mask form, not in like there's a two three digit should be appear as still should be the XXXX only. That means a mask form. And there is a new from 6th of December. There is KYC Setu is also there by the NPCI and UIDAI, where the registered entity is not required to know the Aadhaar number of these borrowers, because they will help you to verify the borrower, but whatever the data they will get from these KYC Setu, they will get all information in the mass form. So these kind of the facility to be used. We should not generally we should avoid a WhatsApp chat with the borrower as well. If there's a WhatsApp chat, then that should be regularly monitored. We should require some secured function for that. And there should be IVR call system should be used. Like the borrower should know the collection agency should not be able to get the exactly what is the phone number of this person X borrower. They can easily click on the system and directly that can call can go to the ABC borrower, so that they can easily contact to the system. The collection agent who is contacting with the ABC party should not be aware about the phone, because it is also risk to the registered entity. They may collect the money from their account. That is several cases that we have seen so far. So giving you this example, which means that whenever you onboarding any LSP, in our example is a collection agency, you have to be very there should be a professional skepticism while you onboarding any XYZ entity. So taking account technical ability, data privacy policy and storage system should be in India, like privacy policy I've already explained you before. Fairness in the conduct of the borrower and ability to comply with the regulation means they have to understand of the legal registered, and it is not a one-time process. It should be a periodically process. Like if you have a one agency, then every 6 months you are required to check those agencies on regular basis whether they are complying with things, because ultimate what it has been said, even if you do LSP and everything, ultimate responsibility rests with the registered entity. So you have to be very sure about the compliance on the LSP part. And as a registered entity shall impart necessary guidance to LSP acting as recovery agent to discharge their duty and responsibility, ensure they comply with extant instruction in this regard. Yeah, so that is about the collection agency and other things. Collection, use and sharing of data with a third party. So earlier, what used to happen, if I'm installing your application, I used to get data from their like so many applications. They used to get the data from their phones, like their cookies and their XYZ thing and whatever that they used to extract the contact list of these borrowers, and they used to call if they are not paying. There's lots of things that used to happen in earlier, when there was no any specific guideline. Earlier there was some guideline in the various specific law, but there are very less, and there was very not much clarity about these guidelines. So that's why these guidelines have come into picture after various discussion by the RBI with the stakeholder and the various authorities. So, like in the first thing, registered entity shall ensure that any data collection by their DLA, their LSP need based. It should be need based. It should not be something that you're accessing more data. Whatever the data you require should be need based, which means you can access the KYC document, because these are the basic requirement by the RBI KYC direction 2016, that you are required to have the PAN card. It is a need based. You're required to have the Aadhaar card. It is a need based. You are required to share it with data with a third party. But third party, who is the third party? That is CICs, eCivil, Equifax, and other two CICs. So you can share the data with a third party, but that should be a part of your process, and it should be very clearly messaged to the borrower that this information is being shared just because of your assessment of this loan. For my example, it is a CICs, but registered entities shall also ensure that DLA desists from accessing mobile phone resources like file and media. It should not be accessed. Contact list, like I mentioned, you call logs. What do you do? What NBFC is going to do with the call log list? This should not be happen like this. You cannot access the call log list. Other telephonic functions as well. Whatever the need-based requirement, you do only those things. Otherwise, you are not required. If you have something fishy on your mind or something about a human behavior, we will discuss. There is some separate sheet for this. Like some company used to extract the data just to understand the human behavior, like biometric data, which I initially explained in the definitions. I'll take up with later, but that should not be also there. A one-time access can be taken for camera, microphone, collocation facility necessary for purpose onboarding KYC. KYC one-time access is allowed because of their specific requirement. The purpose of obtaining borrower consent need to be discharged. So whenever we are taking X data, Y data, you need to tell the borrower, sir, we are taking data for this purpose. Kindly give a consent. So there should be a checkpoint on your applications as well. Explicit consent of the borrower shall be taken before sharing personal information with any third party, except in case where sharing is required as per the strategic guideline. Like I mentioned, you can share the data with third party, but you are required to take the explicit consent from the borrower. And when there is a regulatory requirement like XYZ and RBI asked you to share the data with them, then there is no any such because how are you going to take the charges? How are you going to take the these number of borrowers and consent in one go when RBI is asking? So this is about the sharing the information with the third party. Comprehensive privacy policy and technology standards. So whatever the policy, that privacy policy, like I explained in the previous, it should be a comprehensive policy. It should not be like whatever the things that you're doing with the borrower should be, if it is with regard to privacy policy, privacy of the borrower, then there should be, it is regarding the LSP DLA, then you're required to make an exhaustive and comprehensive list of privacy policy, and plus there should be not even a plus one or minus one from that policies. So yeah, data management. So the personal information, LSP and DLA do not store any personal information. They are not required to store the personal information. And responsibility of these things is still prevail with the registered entity. They have to ensure that they are complying, their data privacy policy ensure that these data are stored in well manner and in India only, not in any other kind of place. Even data management, there's one another point that we have some international companies as well, where we generally like there's a fintech world, and so many international companies are investing in India. So what happens so far? Some information, some company want to access the data from a country by country, but that is strictly prohibited. No person is allowed to access the server from outside India, and it is because this data is related to the Indian company. If anything happened wrong, then your company may be, and even if it is a fintech company which is partnered with the NBFC, or if it is an NBFC having own fintech company, you will be in trouble. So make sure the data is stored properly. All the factor authentications are there. There's a personal accountable who can manage the data and store the data. And impact of FLDG. So if we're talking about the first loss default guarantee, which means that there's so many fintech company were partnering with the NBFC, and they were entering like, I'll give you the guarantee of this much of rupees and you can disperse the loan to XYZ borrower through this fintech partner. Now RBI has recognized it as a synthetic securitization. And synthetic securitization mean that you can borrow to the ABC person, and risk and reward belongs to the person who has given the guarantee with regard to these borrowers. If anything happened wrong, then that company is required to pay back. If borrower does not make the payment, then X company who has guaranteed the NBFC company, they're going to pay back to the NBFC company. But in synthetic securitization, this kind of arrangement has been prohibited, and some of the fintech company are like stopped working now, and the company, they are coming up with a different arrangement. How legals and illegals are there, that times can tell, that future holds on. So RBI at this moment, we are also hoping that there should be a specific guideline with regard to the FLDG thing. But if it is not there, but as on date, it is strictly prohibited. And if it is some company are doing, then I don't know, there may be some different kind of arrangement, but it is strictly prohibited by the RBI. So that was from my side, and I think we can just a minute. We can start the QA round here, and so that we can understand the. So hand over to Shelly. If you have any question with related to anything, you can email me on this info@nbfcadvisory.com, and this is our website. This is our phone number. You can directly contact us if you having any query with regard to fintech. If you having a fintech company, if you have a RBI registered NBFC, we will be happy to help you. And we can take up the question answer round now.
Thank you, Varun, for giving a detailed understanding on the topic. I assume that the attendees might get the clarity on the topic, or they can reach us to our mail and phone number if they require. So, first question that we have received, that what needs to be considered while designing and lending app? Is it a legal or illegal? Hand over to you.
So basically, while we are designing an applications, we have to keep lots of things in mind, because if you're designing an application, putting in Play Store, then Play Store is also not going to accept those applications. There are the specific requirement from the Play Store as well. You can check the Google guideline and iOS guideline as well. Like, you need to have a registered NBFC participation license, or maybe any copy of the license. The second thing is, while we're designing an application, we need to ensure that the data and the communication, These are the two parameters which is more relevant to RBI. The data which we are getting to the from the borrower, it should be kept separately. It should be in a server which is in India. It should be stored in a proper way, and it should be we should be compliant with not only even the RBI guideline, because being an NBFC, we are also a financial institutions. So, and we the PMLA guidelines is also like applicable to us. So we need to also ensure the compliance with PMLA guideline. And like designing an application, most probably the steps of designing, if you're talking about that, basically a basic information, the KYC document, some of the API integration from the CIC and other various rule engine we have to implement here. Like whatever the things we have to do, that should be done as per this latest guideline. If this latest guideline does not have any clarity, then RBI has issued various previous guidelines which says that these are the responsibility are which are applicable to fintech company. These are the XYZ things which is applicable to registered entity. So we need to ensure the compliance from the RBI perspective as well as the PMLA and various cyber laws as well. Yeah. So there is a question: is there any upper cap for collection of processing fee? Okay, this question is very good. If you read the prudential norms of our NBFC, which is applicable to prudential of RBI, which is applicable to NBFC, there is an upper cap available to NBFC MFI. That is 2% of the processing fee, but a non-MFI category, it should not be excessive. It should be as per your business policy, and whatever the charges you are required, you need to justify it to the RBI if there is a complaint. Like if you visit the number of RBI website, you will be able to NBFC website, you will be able to get they are required to mention the cost to be charged to the customer, like it is interest cost, it is a credit cost, it is a ABC cost, it is a XYZ cost, and in totality this is to be charged. So there, in case of NBFC non-deposit taking non-MFI category, if you are asking, then there is no any such limit, but it should not be like excessive that no borrower taking the loan from your platform. So it should be very general, and make sure that your business run at least at the break-even point or at some level. I hope CS Pragyam Shri, I have already given you an answer.
Yes. Can a RE provide FLDG to other RE? That's the question been asked by the attendees. Varun, you may please answer.
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting so many questions.
You can take one of these.
Rather sending mail to customer from LSP moment is allowed. Yeah, it is allowed because you have already met. Yeah, it is allowed because you have already mentioned in your KFS statement that these are the LSP of me. But whenever you are communicating with these borrower, your way of communication should be very polite. It should not be something that you offend the borrower. Yeah, it is allowed because you are required to. You have already mentioned in the KFS that these are your LSPs. NBFC has not appointed any recovery can itself carry out. Yeah, it's either you have an in-house function or maybe you can outsource the function. It is up to you. It is not specifically that you are mandatory to outsource, but if you feel that it is not, there is no any cost benefit analysis of this, then you generally outsource. And because every time in some of the borrower, you have to call multiple times to get money recovered. So then it is not feasible to NBFC to report much time because they are more focused on business. That's why they outsource the function. Can registered entity provide FLDG to other registered entities? Sir, FLDG is already, I said, it is right now provided. If you're talking about the co-lending arrangement can be done, but it is already, whether it is mandatory to appoint recovery agent if NBFC. No, it is not mandatorily. You can have your in-house arrangement as well. You can appoint, you can hire employee on your payroll, and you can have your own function. It is not mandatorily like you like outsource or if it is a digital lending application, then you have to outsource. It is not mandatory. Whether it's cooling off period, can NBFC collect it? Yes. Only the prepayment charges are prohibited, but the interest and the other various things, which is but that should be communicated to the borrower. That should be communicated to the borrower. It should not be like something which is not communicated to the borrower and you are charging it now. So otherwise you will be in trouble if you're charging without communication to the borrower. So I think we have taken up questions, and we have still, I think, 3 minutes. So if any person has a question, if LSP says creation has already been collecting data, say call log, gallery access, some other app feature, they will be handled, or this data collected only during loan journey will come under the preview. How there are two different set of data come. If LSC, Swiggy, etc. have already been collecting data, say call log, gallery access for some other app feature, then how these will be handled? Okay. Or this data collected only during the loan journey will come under. See, our guidelines are specific to the digital lending. If you have any problem with these Swiggies and other various platforms, you feel that they are accessing your data, then you may file a complaint with the cyber cell as well. Like, but my particular session with regard to digital lending and whatever the things that have been said, it is applicable to digital lending only.
There is one more.
Okay, whether it is required that loan agreement to be in the yes. So it is preference of the borrower. It should be in vernacular language and another Hindi. And if you're doing offline lending as well, then you have to keep this loan agreement, even if despite of the digital lending or this thing, all the agreement and should be in vernacular language. If I'm giving a loan in Karnataka, so the audience is different. If I'm giving a loan to people in Punjab, the audience is different. So make sure if the customer, you should allow to choose customer to choose the preference. If you allow them to choose the preference, then it is to be you can have their regional language agreement. That's fine. So I think we are done with our session. If you do have any questions related to anything, you can email me at info@nbfcadvisory.com, and we will be happy to answer you all the queries. I believe that this session was knowledgeable for you, and if there would be any query, you can email me. Hopefully we will be able to reply you within a 24 hours. That is our organization policy. So thank you so much, guys, and I think thanks for joining us. I hope I have, because there were so many queries we were receiving from the fintech industry, we as a professional agency. So that's why we want to conduct a free session, so that most of the fintech company or professional may get this knowledge and can impart this knowledge to and guide this fintech in a better way, so that the data can be very good. So we will have a second session also, and that maybe we will kindly like you can go to our LinkedIn page, you can and so that we can give you the notification to the next session. And if the session is fine, you can comment on our LinkedIn page as well, that whatever, if you find it very knowledgeable. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope I have added some value in your knowledge, and yeah, that's a good day.